How to migrate traditional network to SD-WAN? Where to place the WAN edge devices? It's between the core and the router. Do we need a downtime to migrate from traditional network to Cisco SD-WAN? What about the circuit? Do we need a new circuit or the old circuit? Which site to migrate first? It is data center, hub site, or branches? Which data center to migrate first, the primary one or the secondary one? What in case if both are in the active? And what about the routing? How to avoid the routing loop? To make communication between the SD-WAN sites and the non-SD-WAN sites. So today we are going to discuss about every question that is normally asked during interview on the topic how to migrate from traditional network to a Cisco SD-WAN. So if you are an architect or a designer or a implementer or an operational engineer, this video is very useful for you and very informative for you. So stay tuned to this video till the end and learn this most asked question during interview and how to cater those questions and how to figure out what needs to be answered, not only in terms of interview but also in the practical scenario, what exactly you need to do under which circumstances, so that you should be ready with the Cisco SD-WAN questions answers for your next interview. Hello everyone, this is Ajit here from Interview Network. Welcome to Chill One More Time. And today we are going to migrate legacy network to Cisco SD-WAN. In this video, we are going to cover all this topic as you can see on the screen. So don't miss a single minute of this video, because every seconds of this video is going to make you learn something that will help you to clear your interview, and that will also help you to clear your concept. We are covering every single steps. In case if you come out with any questions which you think is still not answered, do mention in the comment section and I will personally answer to your questions. So चलते हैं screen पे.
So the first part that we are going to talk about is about analysis, and that focus on what. Okay, so well, analysis is a very important role that performs, because this is what you need to focus on your current existing setup of your network. So your current mode of operation, which is called known as CMO, you need to focus everything related to those network, because you are going to migrate your legacy network to SD-WAN. Okay, so every question that starts with what needs to be answered, and every aspect has to be done a proper analysis. Okay, so I have covered few important analysis that needs to be done at this level, but these are not the complete list. There are a number of things that needs to be done the proper analysis of entire your network. Okay, so number one is inventory. So inventory talk about create list of WAN devices along with any WAN router which are of model 1000 ISR, 4000 ISR, 1000 ASR, as these are SD-WAN ready devices and just need SD-WAN code in it. So what does it says? So when you do the proper analysis of your current network, current setup of your legacy network, you will, because we are going to migrate all your WAN boxes to SD-WAN boxes. So first off, figure out, do we have in your traditional network any devices or list of devices which can be directly migrated to SD-WAN by simply upgrading to SD-WAN code. So in your network, in your legacy network, if you have 1000, 4000 ISR or 1000 ASR router, then you can save a lot of your money of your customer by simply migrating these boxes to SD-WAN code. Okay, then also you need to find types of network, like list of sites having local breakout, list of sites do not have local breakout, list of applications and its criticality, its SLA, QoS needed. Every details you need to be captured somewhere. So in a very large network where applications can experience latency issues, if traffic needs to transit to data center during the migration, or you designate one of your regional sites to be the transit site in between. So what it says, when you prepare a list of all the applications and its criticality, like for example, if in your current network, if you have 100 servers or 100 applications, so you need to bifurcate which applications are more critical, which need more priority compared to other applications. It's SLA, it's QoS needed. Everything needs to be done in a proper analysis. And according to this analysis, you are going to migrate these devices or these applications to a specific SD-WAN environment. So when it says in very large network where applications can experience latency issues, if traffic needs to transit to data center during the migration, or you designate one of the regional sites to be the transit site in between. So what it says, so while during doing the migration, they might face, come across a situation where you have to, you know, use a data center as your transit site between the site where applications are already deployed and the sites who are accessing the applications. Okay, so or if data center is too far, then you can use one of the regional hub or the hub site to be acting as a, a transit site to access the application. Okay, so those aspect also needs to be taken care of. That the list of circuits you have, the kind of MPLS circuit you have, the kind of internet circuit you have, their types of circuits you have, everything needs to be taken care of. Make a note of those things. List of sites and its current design, like single ISP site, dual ISP sites, and so on. Downtime needed or not, all this needs to be done analysis before you perform or go to the next step. So analysis focus mostly on the what questions, as I said, what all configuration you have, what all IP you are using, what all VRF you have, what all applications you have, what all data traffic you have, what voice traffic you have, what wireless traffic you have, how you are segregating them, what all subnets you're using for voice traffic, for data traffic, for Wi-Fi traffic, how controllers are deployed in current network, how all the switches or the routers that are routing is being done, which protocol you're using. Like for example, there are certain set of customer who use BGP in LAN and WAN both, and then maximum customer use OSPF and EIGRP in LAN and in BGP in WAN. Okay, so those all information, what will be your configuration when you migrate your from traditional network to SD-WAN, how you'll be doing this bifurcation, because in SD-WAN everything will be your underlay and overlay. So your data plane traffic and the control plane traffic, which is normally divided in SD-WAN, how you are going to do this segregation, how you are going to redistribute the traffic, how you are going to do redistribution between control plane and the data plane, what all the devices you have in data plane, how you're going to merge those sites into one single sites, what all the possibility you have. So you need to take care of every aspect. So you have to do the complete analysis. The more stronger analysis you have at this level is going to save a lot of your time in when you are going to deploy your, or you're going to migrate from traditional network to SD-WAN. Okay, so once you have the question to what, now we need to focus on next question, how to migrate. Okay, now the important question that is normally asked, like which sites to migrate first. Like, are we going to do top of the rack style, like are we going to migrate data center first, then a regional site or hub site first, then the small sites, or we are going to perform the bottom to top, that means from small sites to hub sites to data center. So what Cisco recommend, and that is the best practice, is that first we should migrate data center, then the hub sites, and then the branch sites. So once you log into vManage, as you can see on the screen, the two way to provision this information. So one is the automatic way. So if on vManage, if you have the code of 18.3 or more, you need to click on the smart account. As you can see on the right hand side, click on sync smart account. So your virtual account and smart account will be synced together. Okay, under configuration device tab, as you can see, this is the configuration tab, and there you have the sync smart account. So another way is to do them manually. So second step is, if using the sync feature is not an option, download the serial file from the PNP Connect portal and manually upload to vManage. So it all depends, as I said, once you customer have your smart account and you have created the virtual account, and Cisco has mapped your all the devices and license to the virtual account, you can simply log into vManage and then you can click on sync smart account. There's an automatic way where everything will be synced to the vManage, and you can simply go ahead and push your all the edge devices. Second step is manually, where you have to upload your edge devices in the Excel sheet. So Excel sheet will consist of your chassis number and the serial number, and those information will be uploaded on the vManage, and then further you can use it. So there are two ways that you can provision all your devices. This step we are going to talk about deployment planning, how you are going to plan about your network, because whatever analysis that you have done, there are certain best practices that needs to be followed. Okay, so during interview or during as an architect or as a designer, you need to done a proper planning how you are going to deploy those information that you have captured in the first step. Okay, so there are certain best practices that needs to be taken care, and there are certain questions that needs to be answered before you actually do the deployment. Number one is have a consistent port numbering scheme throughout the network. So what it says is try to make sure that, for example, if you're using gig 0/0 as a MPLS, then make sure that use gig 0/0 MPLS throughout the network. Okay, so you know that if gig 0/0 has an alert and an issue in the future, you can use the MPLS link has a problem. Okay, and 0/1 has an internet link. So port numbering, that plays a very crucial role in terms of design, because that will help further when you create the template policies and those stuff. It will help you in the future problem also. Number two is factories config specific certain ports in VPN 0 for DHCP to drive ZTP. Be sure this port has reachability to DHCP and DNS. VPN 0 is basically used for the WAN connectivity. So there are certain interfaces that are pre-configured for VPN 0 only. So if you're using that, so make sure that this interface should be reachable via DHCP and DNS. Number three, it says choose a hierarchy that follow the site ID or other logical scheme. So site ID by name, it says a very simple thing, but trust me, this plays a very important crucial role in terms of proper planning, because with proper planning of site ID, you can not only design your current setup, but you can forecast your future scaling of your network. Okay, for example, if I talk about Cisco recommends certain site ID, okay, so that needs to be used for data center, that needs to be used by hub site or the small sites. But as a best practice, what is always required, try to use the best practice recommended by Cisco. For the best practice, advertise system IP as a source IP for SNMP or logging correlation. Then what will be the topology for your fabric or overlay? Is it going to be full mesh, hub and spoke, or partial mesh? That needs to be taken care, and that needs to be answered before you do actual implementation. Using app-aware routing, steering your applications to a better path dynamically. So make sure with the list of applications that you have captured in the first step, make sure to use this SD-WAN feature, application-aware routing steering, because that will help you to divide your applications, and you can use the path dynamically, which applications are more critical compared to other applications. Creating active path or active standby path for your transport, making the sites VPN aware and providing secure segmentation across the WAN, segmenting the guest traffic, using service insertion to route the traffic for profiling and processing. So these are the few important steps or questions that needs to be answered before you go ahead and do the actual deployment of your migration. So guys, in this video, we are going to understand the practical exposure, what exactly and how we are going to migrate your legacy network to SD-WAN. Till now, we have understand from the architect point of view, like what will be things that needs to be taken care in terms of all the information that you have captured, and then how you are going to plan your deployment. Okay, now in this video, we are going to understand what exactly will happen with the devices. We are going to deploy your devices, and then what will be your deployment approach from the architect point of view or from the design point of view, what all options you have, how you can deploy. Okay, so let's start this video now. So as you can see, this is a normal traditional network where we have two data center with 1 2C router at both the data center and 2 core switches. And you can see, let me highlight here. So you can see this is your backbone connectivity between DC1 and DC2. And then below you can see there are two transport we have, MPLS and internet, where with both your data center are connected. And at the bottom you can see here, these are all the different sites, site with a single router, sites with a dual router, sites again with a dual router with L3, and sites again with a single router. So it all different types of sites we have. So it's a normal traditional network, just for example that you are using it, so that you should have understanding how things will be moving ahead now. Because first we are going to migrate our data center, that is this portion, and then we are going to migrate this portion. So in a network, as you can see, each site have your two transport, internet and MPLS. As you can see from here, for example, single router also have one link going to internet and another link is going to the MPLS. Same goes, you can see for the other two all three sides. Okay, so that's a normal setup in our existing network. Okay, now how things will be deployed from here, what all options we have as a designer or as an architect to migrate this network. As we say, we are talking about the migration design options that we have. So number one option, as you can see here, you can see below, these are the site A and this is your site B. Just an example that we have taken. So your site A CE router is connected to the MPLS. So that means this site has one CE router with MPLS, and your internet router link, we have placed a new VNH box. So this is a simple approach where we are not going to disturb your current network setup. Okay, so all your non-SD-WAN sites will be communicating via MPLS link, and your internet link will be used when we have to communicate between the SD-WAN sites. That's a one approach that we have. Second approach that we have, as you can see here, that same, your internet is connected to your VNH boxes. You're using a internet transport, and with C router that we have, we are creating a tunnel between your this C router and the VNH box. Now this tunnel, what exactly it means, that as we all know, in SD-WAN we have two underlay and overlay, where your edge box talk about your underlay, and your overlay is your about your all your vSmart, vBond, and all the controller that we have. Okay, so you understand from here, there is no connectivity, but here we have the connectivity with VNH boxes with the MPLS with the help of tunnel, where we are deciding. So your overlay is deciding how your traffic will be, which traffic is for, that means where the traffic is destined to. If it is destined to non-SD-WAN sites, traffic will move to your core MPLS link, and if it is for SD-WAN sites, it will follow the internet link. Okay, I think that's very simple and very clear to you. And then third approach, as you can see here, so instead of, as you can see here, there's no connectivity with your C router. So your C router, that is your existing router, is using your MPLS link, and now where your VNH box has one internet link, and also it has one MPLS link. Okay, so same box is consisting of your MPLS link is been stretched to VNH box, and to internet link is also stretched to the VNH box. So what it does that mean, that now all your SD-WAN traffic will be moving via both MPLS transport and the VNH internet link, and non-SD-WAN traffic will be using by the existing C router that we already have. Okay, now as you know, because there are lots of decisions that needs to be taken, how the traffic will be moving. There will be some specific site which will take the control decision, otherwise there will be a mess in the network. And so to avoid those mess, what we have to do, we have to make data center as a transit hub, a transit site, where all the traffic will go to the data center, and then from data center it will be come to the next your another site. For example, site A, if it has to send any traffic to SD-WAN, it will use the internet link, correct, if it is a direct connectivity. But if site A has to move to site B, which is a non-SD-WAN sites, then traffic will go to your data center, and from data center it will go back to your non-SD-WAN sites B. I think it's very simple and it is very much clear to you. So from the architect point of view, as you can see, there are lots of options we have, how we are going to deploy the small sites or your hub sites, and what all options we have in terms of design point of view. Now, as you can see here, in data center migration, when we do, it says for migrating from legacy WAN to SD-WAN, Cisco recommends deploying the SD-WAN router between the CE and the core router. So you can see here, the question, if it is asked where you're going to place your edge boxes. So when we migrate data center, we are going to place your edge box between our core router and the C router, or the core switch and the WAN box. So your core is your basically this is your LAN, and this is your WAN. Okay, that is your existing network that we have. correct? So what we are placing these two boxes between them, and cable will be connected from the VANET box towards the CE router, and then another cable will go to the LAN side. So when we will talk about WAN side, it will use the VPN 0. So under VPN 0, we'll be using one interface that will be connecting to the CE router, and on the LAN side, we'll be creating a VPN 1. For this second example as VPN 1, you can take any VPN except VPN 512. That's because that is a management VPN, and you can connect your LAN side. Okay, same thing you can do on your another data center, and then there will be further sites migration. So we are not going to cover here because here now we are studying on the data center migration. So in data center migration, where are you going to place your devices? We are going to place the devices between your core switch and the WAN router. Number one thing. Number two, how we are going to do this routing now. Okay, so that is another important aspect, because routing is what plays a crucial role here. How things will be differentiated between the SD-WAN sites and non-SD-WAN sites. Number one. Number two, what will be your approach? Because now here the approach matters a lot, because in case if you are using a LAN OSPF and EIGRP in LAN side and BGP on WAN side, then your approach will be different. In case if you are using BGP in LAN and BGP in in WAN also, then your approach will be different. Yes, there are certain customers who use BGP in LAN also. Okay, so in that case, how you are going to avoid the routing loop? Because if there is a backbone connectivity, as you can see here, there are huge chances any traffic that is coming to this core switch, okay, this traffic will go to your edge box also, and then it will go to C router also. So how this C router will decide? No, C router has to decide how to segregate this traffic, whether this has to go to SD-WAN sites or non-SD-WAN sites. Number one. Number two, what about this loop? Because if it's your VANET box that you have, if it's you are creating because your C router will be, let's say, using a BGP, so it must be using any AS number, correct? Now if you are using same AS number in VANET box, or we are going to use a different AS number. So if using a same AS path, then connectivity between your VANET box and CE box will be IBGP, correct? Because it's all part of the same AS. But if connectivity you are established between your VANET box and CE box with two different AS, that's a EBGP. But under what circumstance we have to use IBGP? Under what circumstance we have to use EBGP? In this section, we are going to learn about how your new VANET box that you have deployed in data center will be a layer one connectivity, that is a physical connectivity will be established between your core switch and the core router. Okay, so each data center has two link, MPLS link and internet link, and each data center, each link has their own positive sides about providing the IP, so that your VANET box will be able to reachable. Okay, so how things work here, let's understand first that part. So it says for the physical layer and L3 connectivity on WAN side, that is on VPN side, what we are going to do, we are going to use /30 on MPLS CE to SD-WAN router link. So that what it says here, between your VANET box and your CE router, we are going to use the /30 IP for the MPLS connectivity. And for the internet, there are one method that internet, as we all know, use the DHCP by default. Okay, so once your VANET box will get the IP, now it's ready to take the traffic from the core switch. So that what does that mean? Now your VANET box is also ready to redistribute the traffic that it receives or it send out. Okay, so the inbound outbound traffic will start happening. Now there is a big catch. Now what happened that the moment when your C router is also doing the same thing, doing the inbound and outbound, and your WAN router or the new VANET box will also start doing the same thing of redistributing the traffic for inbound and outbound, a loop might occur. Okay, now how to avoid the loop? That is the most important question. As I said in my previous section also, that as we are migrating the data center, so first thing that we need to understand where what your LAN is using. Is it using the EIGRP OSPF or it is using the IBGP? Because according to that, you are going to decide your next step. So number one step, it says when you're using BGP in the data center LAN protocol, configure both edge router in the same AS and create eBGP neighborhood between the core router and edge route. Because of the same BGP AS path, second edge router will not install any of the routes that were originally redistributed by the other edge router from OMP. So what does that mean? It says all your managed route boxes should be part of same AS. Okay, so let me remove it and explain to you again. It says all your WAN edge box should be part of same AS. This, okay. Now your C router already have your existing AS. For example, for internet, if it is using AS 100, and for MPLS, if it is using AS 200, so your existing traditional network already using the AS. Now the new VANEDGE box that you have deployed, you are going to create eBGP between your VANEDGE box and the C router. And that is why we need additional AS for all your 4 VANEDGE boxes. So that makes your C router, whatever AS number it has, and the VANEDGE box, that the new AS that you are going to use it, the relationship between your C router and VANEDGE router will be your eBGP. Now routing loop says when for BGP there are two routing mechanisms, that the two way to prevent the routing loop. Number one, for IBGP, it says we are not going to advertise the same route learned from one IBGP router to another IBGP router. What does that mean? It says if this is router 1, this is router 2, this is router 3, and if all are part of AS 100, take an example here. So if this router R1 learn any prefix, it will not advertise the same prefix to R2 and R3. That's the number one rule. Route learned from one IBGP router will not advertise to another IBGP router. Okay. Now for eBGP, it says in order to advertise, avoid the routing loop, you need to establish the eBGP session so that it should not learn the same AS path, right? That's the another routing loop prevention method. Is that that's clear? It's very simple and very much clear to you. And if you are using LAN on the LAN side, if you're using OSPF and EIGRP, as I said, use tag to mark the prefixes when redistributing from OMP to OSPF on both SD-WAN edge router. Use this tag to filter the prefixes when redistributing from LAN to OMP. In order to avoid the routing loop, what you have to do, you have to establish the eBGP connectivity between your core, your WAN router and your new VANEDGE box that you have deployed. Okay. Number two, now that too only when you have the IBGP, you're running the BGP in a LAN also. But when you're using a OSPF and EIGRP, then you have to use the tagging feature to route the traffic, to redistribute the traffic between OMP to OSPF or OSPF to OMP, and you have to filter accordingly as it's mentioned, and it's very clear to you. Now, the problem happens here. If you go back to the same screen, you can see there is a backbone connectivity. You can see DC1 is connected to DC2. In that case, if DC1 is connected to DC2, that normally happen. And if by chance, if you have used the redistribute between them, if redistribute subnet or prefix is configured between two data center, then there is a loop. So there are two situations now. Number one situation, when the redistribute of prefixes between two data center is not configured, then we will be doing what we have learned till now. But in case if there's a backbone connectivity between two data center and a redistribution prefixes is configured between two data center, then what will be your approach? Okay, now here, see, loop, what does the loop says? Loop says that any route that I have learned, I should not learn the same route from the another device, because that create the loop. Okay, so if DC1 is learning any route, and if it is reconfigured to routize the same route to the DC2, everything as a replica, so there's a big chance that VanEdgeBox will start replicating your prefixes, and there will be a big chance that you are going to create a loop in there. As we're talking about, like if route advertisement is configured between two data center, then there are multiple ways where we can avoid the routing loop. Number one is the same way that we have already discussed, that we have to use the same AS on edge router of the two data center. So all the 4 boxes of a data center should have the same AS number. And because of the same ASN, the AS path attribute will avoid learning the same prefixes on the edge routers that are advertised by the other data center towards the LAN side. That is number one method, and that's very, very useful method in a practical scenario also. There's another method also, and that is called the use overlay AS. So it says use overlay AS to insert overlay management protocol AS number when redistributing the route from OMP into LAN's side towards data center LAN. Configure all DC SD-WAN edge router with the same overlay AS. This allows the edge to filter the route advertised by the other data center edge devices towards the LAN side and prevent redistributing the same routes back into OMP. Okay, so what it says normally, as we have discussed, that between your core router and your new VanEdgeBox, we are going to create the 2 different AS, and that will be your work as a eBGP to avoid the loop. Another method says use the overlay AS. Now, the new AS that you are going to use for the VanEdgeBox, what will be that new AH? Because see, in BGP, we use the AS number for the communication, for the is ISP given us this AS number so that we can talk to world. Now, same thing in SD-WAN, every function, the way BGP do in traditional network, OMP overlay management protocol do for the SD-WAN. So that when OMP is another protocol that behaves the same way like BGP. So it should also have its own AS number. Okay, so we are going to use the same overlay AS number between your VanEdge router. And third way that you can do to avoid the loop is use tag or communities to mark the prefixes at one data center when redistributing to DC LAN and filter on the edge of the other data center when learning advertisement from the LAN side. So what it says, on DC1, if you're learning any data center, use the tag or communities. Help of tagging and communities, you are marking the prefixes. And on the other data center, as you are marking the prefixes, make sure to filter those tags, those prefixes, so that any routes that learn from the LAN side again will be dropped in data center 2 itself, and it will not come to data center 1. So these are the methods through which we can avoid the routing loop, and these are the best practices which Cisco recommend that needs to be taken care when you are planning to deploy or migrate your legacy network to SD-WAN. If you need more detailed video on how to migrate your small branches or the large branches or the hub side also, like, because they have their own way of working, because in data center you have every devices, everything is available on sites when there's no internet and they have to come back to data center to get the internet. Now, in case if you're using the default gateway as a data center for to a specific site, there is a big possibility that there's a black hole will be created for those prefixes. Okay, and that site will be lost. Okay, so in that case, what will be approach? A detailed video on how to migrate your small sites or hub sites also, because routing will be different on each sites. Then do mention in the comment section. I will come back to you and I will prepare another video for you, and you can learn from there also. So guys, I hope it's very clear to you, and do mention in the comment section if you need if you have any query, and do subscribe my channel and do share with your friends, and so that anyone who is part of this industry who wants to learn SD-WAN should get benefited. And I'm sure this is going to help you clear your interview in a, and it's going to boost your confidence